Okay, so this week we have a double Torah portion, and the second Torah portion, Kedoshim, is very short, but has many, many mitzvot. In fact, unlike the regular order of Torah study, where Moshe would first teach his brother Aaron, and after his brother Aaron, then Aaron's children would come in, then Moshe would teach the elders, and Aaron and Aaron's children would go on the sides of Moshe. Then all the Jewish people would enter. After Moshe repeated the lesson 3 times, he repeated it a 4th time to all the Jewish people. But this Torah portion, it says he taught this message to everyone together. This is one of 2 places where Moshe does this week's Torah portion, and in Parshat Vayakel, where Moshe gives us the commandment to build a tabernacle. So that Torah portion, we understand why it's necessary to bring everybody together. It's a major event. We're going to build a place for Hashem in the world. It's the whole purpose of creation. It makes sense that everybody has to get together for this special event. What's so special in this week's Torah portion? And so Rashi says, because most bodies of Torah information are dependent on this. I think that's on my door. No, 1 second.
It's the 3rd.
Okay. Yeah. No, 4th.
Okay, so what exactly is so fundamental about this Torah portion? Why is this considered to be so all-encompassing? There are many mitzvahs, but some commentaries have interesting take on this. So Venus Naivashet says that the Torah has a different perspective of what holiness looks like than other religions that have them. The Torah considers just gathering everyone together itself as something holy, something special, as opposed to people who lived a life of asceticism and hermits, mountaintop people. The Torah says that the goal is to bring Hashem's holiness to the physical world. I don't know if the story is true or not, but the story I heard was that there was a symposium of various religions, and there was one Jewish lady in the crowd, and they were interviewing a rabbi, and among other religious leaders. And this lady says, what's wrong with Dalai Lama? Why can't I be faithful to my religion and also learn from him too? So the rabbi is like, in our religion, we consider the one to know the person the best is the wife. So we want to know what's going to say, right? The rabbi's going to say he's good, he's bad. Whatever he's going to say, he's in trouble. The rabbi said, I think the way to figure this out is to ask Mrs. Dalai Lama. What? Everyone's shocked. Rabbi, you don't know that Dalai Lama is not married? Rabbi says. So he's surrounded by flowers. He's surrounded by animals who don't challenge his ego. Imagine him being around a wife and children, and people actually have to compromise his ego in order to maintain domestic harmony in his home. That would tell us what holiness he really has. In Hebrew, the word for love is a numerical equivalent to 13, and love 13 times 2, love times 2 is Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's name. Just the fact that we're able to get together, leave space for each other, that already is holiness. That's already something that's considered the ideal of where we want to get to. So this Torah portion which discusses this gathering the Jewish people, where Moshe gives us most of the mitzvahs of the Torah, most of the major components of Torah, is called Kedoshim, which means to be holy. Yeah. What that means is that Hashem tells us to do some things that other people do, but Jews do them differently. We're meant to be engaged in the physical world, but with a divine intent. For a Jew, it's not enough just to engage in the physical world. There has to be purpose. There has to be meaning. It can't just be just mundane, just physical. There's a godly purpose of why we're here. We have to pay attention to them. So that's the general setting of this Torah portion. Everyone's got it together to hear the mitzvahs, and mitzvah number one is to be holy. Besides that, the fact that gathered together itself, that itself expresses holiness, how we view holiness. So after this, Moshe gives them several commandments, many commandments. It's a short Torah portion with many, many commandments. One of the commandments is, do not stand idly by when your brother's blood is being threatened. Do not stand by your brother's blood. Unlike Cain and Abel, where Cain says, am I the garden of my brother? The Torah says, don't stand by your brother. And this is something which is very different to the way that modern law looks at things. In America, there's a famous story, I think it was in the 60s, a woman named, I think, Kitty and Boza, Italian lady. She went to her apartment building and she was attacked. She was assaulted. And some crazy man that stabbed her a couple of times. Then he leaves. She's screaming, guy leaves. She comes back and he stabs her again and again and again. And she's screaming and screaming. And it's an apartment building. There's hundreds of people that hear her in her building and the buildings around. And yet, this goes on for a half hour. No one calls the cops until it's too late. Someone calls the cops when it's too late, and unfortunately, she died. And so America was very shaken by this, and this prompted the Good Samaritan law. The Good Samaritan law is you can't be arrested, you can't be prosecuted for trying to help someone unsuccessful. The American law didn't say you're obligated to stop. It just said that you can be prosecuted if you do stop. That's why American law doesn't really put responsibility on our shoulders. American law is built to protect us from things that protect our rights. Similar thing happened in Israel, which also Israel's not their law is also not based on Torah so much. Story happened in Israel. This guy Moshe Chai Yisrael, he went on his motorcycle from Chulon, and he also was in some kind of accident, and he's lying on the road for a minute and a half. Dozens of cars are passing him, and no one stops. And they interviewed all the people the cops stopped these cars. Why don't you guys help this guy? Like, we're busy. We figured someone else would stop. And Rashi comments on this week's Torah portions mitzvah, which is a clear demarcation from American law and modern law. Rashi says, do not stand by your brother, by your brother's blood, and you don't see him, says Rashi, and you're able to help. Do not see him, you're able to help. That's what Rashi says. It's really unusual how Rashi phrases it. Could have just said, why your eyes? Could have said your ears. Don't hear something that and stand idly by when you know something. That's how other commentaries explain this. Other commentaries focus on the way the Torah presents this mitzvah. The Torah says, do not do any tail bearing. And then the Torah says, don't stand by your brother's blood. So the Chizkuni, for example, says, what's the Torah saying here? Don't do tail bearing in general. But let's say you know someone's plotting to kill someone, let them know. If someone is going to hurt someone, let them know. This is an exception. The Chizkuni points out that the Torah could have separated these mitzvahs in two by adding the letter Vav, saying here's one mitzvah and here's another mitzvah. But the Torah doesn't put that letter Vav, the and word, the letter Vav, which means and, which would indicate that this is something else. The Torah doesn't put that in. Why? Because he says it's connected to the mitzvah of tail bearing. The Torah is saying when you have information about something that can help someone, or you can't keep it close to your chest, you've got to share that. Similarly, the Chizkuni says another explanation. Actually, puts this as his first explanation. He says, if you are tail bearing, if you say to someone that Avramo did something, you're going to make Avramo upset at you. Maybe who knows what he'll do to you. So don't tail-bearing could lead to bloodshed. That's what the Torah is saying. That don't share what other people have said to others, because you don't know where that's going to go. You may cause murder to happen by sharing what people have said. That's how the Chizkuni explains this, because he's trying to understand why the Torah is putting this together. But Rashi doesn't address this at all. Rashi seems to veer from his normative stance in explaining the Torah, just trying to explain the simple meaning. And Rashi puts this whole other thing over there. It says, you see somebody, don't stand idly by. But another question is, why doesn't the Torah say it in a positive way? Instead of saying, don't stand by your brother's blood, why not say, help your brother, save your brother? Why does it say, don't stand by? What's the Torah emphasizing with don't stand by? Why say the negative? What the Chizkuni says is something that in history has been very happened many times. It sounds like people get killed, because no, this has happened. In the time of King David. King David was trying to escape from King Saul, and this man in Achimelech, Kohen, in the city of Nov, protected him. And Doeg told this to King Saul, and King Saul went and murdered 85 Kohanim and from the city of Nov. So him sharing what this information caused deaths. So it's clearly there is an issue with murder, with death, when you talk about other people. So what the Chizkuni says we can understand. Or we want to know what does Rashi mean. Rashi emphasizes you see somebody, you're able to help them, don't stand idly by. What's Rashi saying? The answer is Rashi's talking to us. Rashi's talking to us, and he's talking to people which are not in a state of anger and murder. He's just saying, you might just want to move on. You might just want to continue walking. You might not want to stop and interrupt everything that's going on, because who says you could help? Who says you should help? What about all the other things going on in your life? And Rashi says, you know what? You're connected to this event. You're connected. You're asking a question you have your whole life going on. Rashi says, 1 second, you saw something. So this actually talks about how when you see something, it touches you very deeply. That's why it's so important when you look at it, because whatever you see touches you. Rashi is telling you, you know why this matters? You know why you have to save him? Because you saw. In other words, the two phrases in Rashi, Acharei-Kedoshim, you see someone dying and you could save them, are connected to each other. Because you saw it, that's why you have to help. In other words, the circumstances that you're in are being created by God and orchestrated by God for a reason, because you're the guy. You might ask, why am I the guy? Rashi is telling you, I'm telling you why you're the guy. Because you are standing in your shoes and you're witnessing this. The fact that you're witnessing this means it's relevant to you. This is explains the famous story of Mordechai and Esther. Esther is a queen, wife of Achashverosh, and Mordechai says to Esther, you have to go and talk to the king. And she hasn't been summoned to the king for a month. And to go to the king without being summoned is putting your life on the line, and she's very hesitant. And she also is hesitant for religious reasons. She had first been coerced to be married to Achashverosh. She's Jewish. Going to the king is basically asking the king to violate her when she is not interested. She's Jewish. So why should she go to the king? So whatever the halachic answers are about this particular event where she went to the king, Mordechai gives her the fundamental picture of halacha. Fundamental picture of halacha is, he tells her in one sentence, who knows if this is why you became the queen? In other words, the fact that you are in this scenario means that there's something that's relevant to you. That's the bottom line. That's the guiding principle of how to look at the situation. And this is perhaps the reason why the Torah says that you have to take care of the poor of your family first, the poor of your city first. The Talmud says, first you have to help out your father and mother. Then you have to help out your brothers and sisters. Then your family. then your household, then your family, then the people in your neighborhood, then people on the other streets. Why do your relatives come first? What about other people? Don't have rich relatives. The answer is Hashem put you in this family. That means that there's a connection you have with these people. And this also explains another thing. The Torah talks about many different events that involve a choice. For example, the choice of Moses as being the prophet of the Jewish people, choice of Aaron as being the priest of the Jewish people. And in none of these scenarios do we find a lottery being made. We don't find a lottery to choose the leader of the Jewish people. We don't find a lottery to choose who the priest is. And there are many other times that there are people presented with positions of prestige and honor and importance and authority. But only one time in the Torah we find the concept of a lottery. And that is when the Torah is dividing the land of Israel. The Torah says how the land of Israel should be divided. It says it has to be done with a lottery. The Barbanel says, well, we don't want people arguing, therefore we want there to be a lottery, it should be fair and square, there shouldn't be any question about the jurisprudence. I don't know if that's right, the word. Did this really be done in the right way? But there's a deeper meaning over here. Before a person's born, Talmud says, Hashem ordains who you're going to marry, where your home is going to be, what the Bas planning and planning, Sada planning and planning, what field you'll have, what home you'll have. There are things you choose in your life, but there are some things that are ordained by, so to speak, a lottery, by God's destiny and fortune for you. And therefore, you have to know that this is not an accident, and these circumstances are yours uniquely because Hashem has put them into your life. Those are relevant to you. Don't ignore them because they are created by divine design. And maybe perhaps this is relevant to the famous story of Jerome Moto. Jerome Moto was a detective for the San Francisco Police Department, and he was an advocate for suicide protection and suicide treatment. One of the things that motivated him of all of his unfortunate encounters with suicide was the following event that shook him to his core, different than all the other events that he saw. He was a guy in his 30s who jumped off the Golden State Bridge, and as they always would do, they would go to the house together with a medical investigator. They go into the house, and there's a note on the desk. I'm going to walk Hashem to the Golden State Bridge and jump off. If someone smiles to me on the way, I won't jump. Nobody smiled, and he jumped. So there is something that Hashem has placed in front of you. And so Rashi says, if you see something, you should know this is something that's relevant to you. And this is true both in regards to now, where Rashi is talking about someone's life is in danger physically. Rashi is also into something spiritual. Someone needs your help spiritually. So you need to pay attention to that. Don't look at the other person's spiritual welfare as someone else. Hashem put you in touch with that person. That means that you need to help this person. Let's look again at the words of Rashi. Don't see their death, and you could help them. The Rebbe understands this to mean if you are seeing their death, you could help them. That's why you're seeing this. This is why this is relevant. There is a discussion in the Code of Jewish Law about divorce, which comes from the Talmud. And divorce is beyond the scope of the class today, but there is the spiritual meaning of divorce that is derived from Talmudic discussion about divorce. At what point should a person say, this isn't for me? This isn't my responsibility. So one opinion of the Talmud is, you want to get married to someone else? You like someone else? Go ahead. Another opinion of the Talmud is, well, if your wife is deliberately burning your dinner, go ahead, marry someone else. The third opinion is, Beis Shammai, who says, unless there is some promiscuity here, Stay with the one that you are married to, one that was chosen by God for you. These three opinions are also talking about our spiritual missions in the world. You're in the middle of doing a certain mission for Hashem. You want to do a different mission. Go ahead as a first opinion. But the more stringent opinion says, no, that's not a good idea. He says, don't leave this mission unless you're encountering difficulty with it. If it's too hard, your dinner is being burnt. That means there's some kind of friction in what you're doing. There's a lot of friction, you could choose something else. However, the correct approach, best approach, is the third opinion, basically, which is, unless there's promiscuity, unless your mission is causing you to compromise your spirituality, stay on your mission. Don't let go of where Hashem is placed. You're here for a reason. Hashem has brought you to these circumstances for a reason. Focus exactly the place and time, the people in your life, and ask yourself, what is Hashem asking of me by me observing people around me? Don't ignore where you are. Don't keep on walking. Don't stand by your brothers. And this is part of the puzzle of why Hashem has placed each of us in this world. I want to share with you a poem, beautiful poem, someone sent me last night, about this very unfortunate situation where this child has this condition in their bones that unfortunately this 4-year-old Goldreich has. He's an 11-year-old boy, lives in Nebrak. He has this genetic disease. It's called, I'm going to mispronounce it, osteogenesis imperfecta. Makes his bones very fragile. He's restricted to a wheelchair. And he breaks a bone every 3 weeks. And this requires insertion of telescopic nails to keep them together. But he was blessed with a golden voice that was totally unaffected by this disorder. He has a great attitude, he has a joyous sense of humor, and he made a beautiful poem about his life. And the poem is called, This Is How I Was Created. And I want to read you the poem. I am not willing to switch with anyone, because that good aspect within me, Ein Af Adam Acher, no one else possesses. Barak Ani Yochol Hashem, only I can complete it. At the chelik sheli bebriyah, the portion of creation which is me, ve'en shum chelik upuzzle olam. There is no other piece of this puzzle of the universe sheyachzor pam shniyah, that will return a second time. Az yesh li acharei v'chova gam zchut. I therefore have a responsibility, an obligation, and a privilege. Va'at ita ani margish kayam. And with this responsibility, I feel alive. Ani mishkan l'shchina. I'm a sanctuary for the divine presence. K'mo even pinah, like a cornerstone. The Beit Mikdash Katan, for my small sanctuary. But it is in the hands of man to choose between good and evil. Will I elevate the spark? All is in the hand of heaven except for fear of heaven. Man, choose be elevated. This is his song. And so it's not easy every day to do the mission Hashem has entrusted us with. But that's our calling. We have to be empowered and realize this is a part of history Hashem has placed us in, and that place is where we have to focus on completely. As Maimonides says, the world's on a scale, the world's on balance, and you focusing on the mitzvah of the hour, where Hashem has placed you right now, that will tip the scale. That one good thought, one good word, one good action, to tip the scale, bring Mashiach to the whole world. Focus where you are, and don't from this boy you saw Goldreich, with his circumstances. And he says, no, this is where I am placed. This is where Hashem has put me. This is where I need to focus on. Have a great day.